What a special treat we have for you this morning, all the way from Finland, where he's calling the under-18 tournament on TSN. It is Craig Button. Craig, you're in Finland. You're about to have breakfast. What's a Finnish breakfast? What will you have for breakfast this morning?
Well, I hope you're not surprised. I'll have a little bit of oatmeal, a little bit of yogurt, and perhaps an omelet. It's not really anything that's special for breakfast. Breakfasts are the same. I mean, Jay, you've been to Europe, a lot of cheeses. They have breakfast meats and whatnot, but I stick with a traditional Canadian breakfast. I might have a little bacon, but all in all, no different than what I would eat at home.
I do love a good breakfast meat. There's no question about it, Craig. We're going to get to Auston Matthews in a second. But first, I'd love to get your thoughts, even from across the pond, on how this series has played out so far. Is this what you expected to happen?
No, it isn't what I expected to happen. From the Toronto Maple Leafs point of view, I thought going into this series that their strength on the offensive side of things was enough to give them a real significant opportunity to beat the Boston Bruins, who, as a defensive team this year, they weren't better than the Toronto Maple Leafs. The goaltending was excellent. There's no question about that. But their defensive play wasn't better than the Leafs. And when you think about the Leafs' offensive strengths, I thought it was an area that they could take advantage of. And I'm not even so sure at even strength that it hasn't been a wash. You look at where the Toronto Maple Leafs find them, their penalty killing is terrible. And if you just become a little bit better on the penalty kill, I know Sheldon Keefe says the goaltending and the penalty and the special teams are tied in together. No, the penalty killing stinks. It's awful. And you're not going to win in the playoffs with terrible penalty killing. And that's the bottom line for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Not good enough. And when the Boston Bruins have been able to take advantage of some untimely, undisciplined penalties by the Toronto Maple Leafs, that has put them in a great position here going into Game 5, up 3-1. But the penalty killing has been their Achilles heel.
And, going into Game 5, Auston Matthews, he's with the team. We don't know if he's going to play. We don't know exactly what is going on with this player, which makes it even more bizarre, Craig. But if he does miss Tuesday's game against Boston, are you giving the Leafs any opportunity to win that hockey game?
Well, just back to the others, you had the William Nylander situation for the first 3 games.
Yes.
Now you have the mystery surrounding Auston Matthews. So when you start off the playoff series and you're without one of your best players in Nylander, now you're going into an elimination game without potentially the best player, best goal scorer on the planet. That becomes challenging. But the Toronto Maple Leafs have shown time and time again, when they get shorthanded, I'm not talking about in the game, that they can find a way to kind of coalesce together, muster up the strength to find a way to win. We've seen it at different points this season. They go without Mitch Marner, they go without Morgan Riley, and they seem to find a level of play and a collective unity in their play that allows them to have success. That's what it's going to take here against the Boston Bruins. You consider Sheldon Keefe talks about, well, it's just like any other game. No, it isn't like any other game. This is a game for your playoff lives. It's very different than any other game. And I think that type of attention, that type of understanding has to be imparted to the group, and the group has to understand that. It's not just about adjustments. It's about coming out and making sure you are going to give everything you have. And I would add, don't take any stupid penalties, and if the adjustments aren't made on the penalty kill, it's over.
You talked about the way Sheldon Keefe has been talking. Craig, the crew and I were discussing the fact that after that loss in Game 4 on Saturday, the way the Leafs players were talking, it was almost as if the series was over. Does that raise a level of concern for you? I know you picked the Leafs to win this series going in. Just the way they're talking now, the way they're playing now, do you think they have a realistic chance of coming back and winning this thing? Because I know you had a belief in this team going into this series.
I did, based on some of the things I just mentioned. But what you want to see in these moments against a really good competitor, the Boston Bruins, in the playoffs, is a level of defiance. When Sheldon Keefe says you can't question our effort, give me a break. Effort is like a minimum requirement. It's like inhaling and exhaling, Don't tell me about, our effort was there. Effort is just a minimum requirement if you want to play in the NHL, let alone get to the Stanley Cup playoffs and have success. So when you consider that what I call a lack of defiance. And it seems to me, Jay, that when I hear them talk, I feel like I'm sitting in the back of a philosophy class in university and I'm ready to fall asleep. Oh yeah, we do if we do this, and if it comes down to this, and yeah, these things happen. Like, give me a break. Stand up and say, no, we're not happy. No, it's not good enough. Yeah, we're going to be better. We're going to come out and we're going to show you we're going to be better. Not all this gobbledygook philosophical stuff. It doesn't play. And that type of attitude isn't going to get them anywhere.
And then you add to it the fact that the players were seen perhaps having a heated conversation on the bench toward the end of Game 4. William Nylander upset at Mitch Marner. A lot of the fan base seems to put a lot of the blame on Mitch Marner. I feel like Mitch Marner has had quietly just off the ice and on it, a very difficult first round. Does he deserve all this criticism, Craig, that he's receiving from Leafs Nation right now?
What I would say about that, first thing I'm going to say is go back to that episode on the bench. And everybody has an opinion on it. And okay, yes, maybe you would like to see that handled behind closed doors. But when something needs to be handled in the heat of the moment, you better handle it in the heat of the moment. And I think that that's what they were trying to do there. What was it, something that everybody could look at and go, oh boy, what is going on here? Why did Mitch do that? Or why didn't they wait till they got to the dressing room? Sometimes you can't wait. Sometimes what you have to do is deal with it right there and then. And I've seen lots of arguments on the bench, and I've seen lots of testy kind of confrontations between teammates. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
Now, when it comes to Mitch Marner, what I would say is go back to earlier in the new year. And Mitch Marner was talking about how everybody was against them and everybody's trying to divide the Toronto Maple Leafs. And, when it comes to Mitch Marner, when you're a top player in the National Hockey League, when you're a top player on your team, you are expected to deliver. Nobody wants to hear excuses. Nobody wants to hear how, outside people are trying to divide us. You go out and play. That's the expectation. And when you're one of the highest paid players, whatever criticism you get for not producing is warranted. It's as simple as that. It goes with the territory. There's no escaping it. So if you ask me if it's fair, yeah, it's fair.
Craig, you won't believe this. Toronto's 7 playoff goals tied with Washington for the Leafs in the first round so far. Craig, do you know what happened to Washington in the first round?
Oh, yeah, they went out in 4 straight.
It's a tough one, Craig. Craig, I hope you enjoyed that finished breakfast, and I want you to try the breakfast meats. Just switch it up this morning.
Okay, ketos.
There he goes. Craig Button, what a beauty.